Today I am going to present an instructional video on vegetation monitoring. Once we have the subplots measured into 20 metre by 20 metre segments, it is important to measure all stems within each of the separate subplots. To make the task easier, the 20 metre by 20 metre subplot can be further divided into 10 metre by 10 metre subplots to make identification of stems easier. For the first subplot, we measure all the stems within the same quadrat marked 0, 20. The next step is to utilise the 1.6 metre measuring stick marked from the base to the top to 1.3, and we place this against the tree here and we mark off 1.3 at this interval where my finger is pointing there. While utilising the 1.6 metre stick, it is important beforehand to move away any loose or debris that may be in the way that will ruin the proper measurement to get the dBH. At 1.3 metres, as indicated with the green tape here, we pull the tape around the tree trunk very tightly and perpendicular to the lay of the ground at the bottom. The diameter in centimetres and milliliters has to be displayed on the correct side of the tape and is visible around the entire tree trunk. Ensure that the tape isn't twisted as incorrect measurements will be given. Afterwards, the note taker double checks by looking at the notes and reading the measurements to ensure that all measurements are correct. We place the stencil just over where the POM mark is here. Instead of using paint, we're obviously using a piece of tape. Stencils, this is the actual stencil. Should be larger, but it's supposed to be wrapped around a full tree. And after this, we are going to mark out where it is without damaging the tree. So here it is. So gradually just cut up a bit above where the stencil is itself, so you're not gouging deep into the tree. And you remove. Voila! Now this area in between here is meant to stretch all the way around and is meant to be facing in one direction, so researchers can find all trees out in the field during the recensus to be remeasured and marked again. As we progress through each of the subplots, they must be each labelled and tagged sequentially. To plot each stem in your subplots, you need to find its bearing and distance from one of the stakes. An accurate measurement is vital, so you need to take into account any slope the subplot has, which has been recorded during the pre-sampling phase. 2 people are needed, one to hold the tape measure at the POM point of measurement, and the other at the stake with a clinometer to ensure the tape measure is level and corrected for slope. When the distance has been recorded, we need to take the bearing using a sighting compass. We do this by looking through one eye and focusing on the stem with the other eye so the hairline matches up. The bearing that reads larger is the bearing of the stem, which is the number that needs to be recorded. Generally, for monitoring of individual plants in a quadrat, to estimate density is straightforward. However, plants are not always easy to distinguish separately due to being joined together underground. It is also difficult to measure for forbs with single small stems. Other weaknesses to consider is that measures of cover, except basal, vary dramatically in regards to climatic conditions, and that cover measurements change and are affected by animal disturbance. Varied patches are harder to estimate, can be costly, labour-intensive, and time-consuming. In return, this makes it difficult to obtain accuracy, often yielding subjective results from bias. However, vegetation monitoring determines measurements of a variety of life forms like mosses, trees, shrubs, and forbs, and gives easier measurements of flora at the ground surface. This information, gathered over a period of time during the first census and recensus, gives stronger evidence related to biomass and ecosystem processes.